Hello and welcome to 24 Authors in 12 Hours. We are on a downhill slide. I've got four authors left. And what I really love about James Woosley is he is not only an author, he is also an editor, book producer. He is my personal publisher for Free Agent Press. I absolutely love working with James. And so I wanted to have him on the show today in all those capacities. And he wrote the foreword for my first book. So welcome, James.
Well, thank you for having me, Amy. And we've been working together for 7, 8 years, something like that now. 3 books and more on the way. So yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, and so I wanted to save this for when you're going to be here. And so this is the newest book. And before we do this, what I want to say is James has a talent for taking the abstract thoughts that don't make any sense in my head and turning it into graphics that look amazing. And I've had so many compliments on my book cover and people saying, oh my God, this is like amazing. I can really see all the intricacy. And James made all that happen. And so I came to you and said, I've got this book. I want to get it out. And I just spewed this random concepts. What were your thoughts? Like, how do you take what an author says, whether it's me or somebody else, and
Yeah.
make it into an amazing graphic?
Yeah, I mean, it comes in all forms, right? So sometimes the authors I work with, they already have a cover in mind or an image in mind, and they give me that, and that's kind of what we start with. And it's just kind of turning it into a cover, something that looks nice. So they might have a picture that doesn't work, in that kind of vertical format for a book. It would work horizontally. So we've got to tweak things, we've got to adjust things, or sometimes I've got to tell them that won't work, that won't be good. So sometimes I have to prove it to them by even making it. But most of the time, it's something less than hey, this is the finished thing, and more than I have no idea what I want, just make it something good, right? So I'm always asking, what colors do you like? What colors do you not like? What feel do you want? We're trying to match the genre. What book covers do you love and which ones do you hate, or elements of book covers? So a lot of times I send them to the bookstore or at least Amazon, right? And I'm like, go find some stuff that you like and dislike and give me that feedback. And so then it's just a matter of kind of like seeing where inspiration hits and what we can come up with, whether it's a stock photo or a visual element or a text heavy. There's so many different styles out there, and beauty's in the eye of the beholder, right? So, some people will love it, some people will hate it, and sometimes my favorite isn't the one that the author picks, but that's okay. With this latest book, it was a challenge because you started out, if you remember right, you made some mock-ups using AI with the
Yes.
ladies from the book and trying to capture that. And I'm like, ooh, okay, how are we gonna go there? And then it shifted to this more abstract kind of thing.
And I had
And then
one
we just
abstract from AI, I think, that we
yeah,
were able to
yeah.
kind of
And
leverage.
then we just started. I mean, I didn't use that in the final product, but it was the inspiration. I think AI is great for that kind of inspiration. If an author wants to kind of mock some things up, I doubt there might be some cases where I might use it, but I doubt I would use it. I would use it as inspiration. Um, but with yours, it was just layer after layer of complexity and detail and hidden kind of stuff that related back to the book, and it kind of went in a really cool place because there's so much symbolism in the book that people aren't even going to be aware of. They might pick out a thing here or a thing there, but there's so many kind of almost Easter eggs in your book cover. And then now we're set up for the rest of the series, just making modifications to that. So no, it was a lot of fun working with you as always, and I think the cover turned out great. I can't wait to see it in person, but you get to see it in person here in a second, opening that package.
Yeah, so we're not going to give away the Easter eggs because I don't want to, like, people who haven't figured it out yet, they get some time to do this. I'm going to shamelessly plug my own book at this time. Normally I wait till the end, but the book
No,
is
do it.
available for download free right now. For the EPUB version. We are working through the audio version right now. It is super, super close. I do want to say that it is leveraging AI at this point. So I'm super excited to use AI voices. We've got the paperback, we've got the hardcover, which I love a hardcover for a book like this. This is going to be a series. We have a lot of plans for a future box set and things like that. I also want to highlight that James and I talked about this concept and he thought it was a little crazy, which I am so okay with. And I have reader's choice. So there are 3 different locations that you can get to vote on for 4 different characters for book 2. And so if you love this book and you're like, oh my gosh, what are going to happen to these characters? I'm getting votes already. So let me know. And this is going to drive, where do these characters go? 4 different characters, 3 different locations. And it's, I want to know, what do readers want to do? And so this is really groundbreaking. And James and I kind of worked on this concept together. And so I have the book though. I want to pull this out. And I didn't do this yet though. So teaser after teaser is we're going to pull up what Free Agent Press is. And I'm going to make sure that I put this in the chat before I forget, because it's so important that you are able to contact James, because his books are amazing. His authors are amazing. I did a Free Agent Press episode for 24 Authors in 12 Hours a few years ago during the height of COVID, and absolutely amazing people to connect with. And so just want to make sure people are aware, because if you are looking for what to do, and we've talked about this for a lot of authors, this is sort of this in between completely self-published. It's, very much a hybrid publish, where you're having somebody who's very professional. And when James first described it to me, he said, I'm like your general contractor for your house. Like, you don't need to get the electrician, you don't need to get the plumber, you don't need to get the roofer, the carpenter. James pulls all that together for you, depending on what kind of package you want to get. Let's talk about that a second, James, what you do there for people.
Yeah, I think that, so the world of self-publishing, right, sometimes has a bad reputation, right? There's vanity publishers out there, and then there's people who feel like they have to do it all themselves. That self-publishing means do it alone. And you did everything, you played every instrument on the album, you wrote every song on the album, and Dave Grohl can do that. Paul McCartney can do that. Prince could do that. But when you're writing a book, you don't necessarily have to do everything in terms of its production. You should be involved if you're going to self-publish. But if you're not a designer, you shouldn't do your cover. You shouldn't do the interior. You shouldn't do the layout for the ebook and all those things. There's things to navigate in terms of setting up for print on demand and Amazon and Books a Million and Barnes and Noble and all of those things. So having somebody that's a guide that takes your book and makes it as good as anything out of the traditional publishing houses and sets you up for success, that's not a bad thing. And so I meet people where they're at. Some are designers and they do the cover and I do the interior. Others, it doesn't matter where you're at in the journey or what skills you bring to it. It's still good to have that second advisor, that coach, mentor, guide, guru, if you want. I don't really like that word for me myself, but somebody that's just been around the block. And I've been doing this for more than a decade. I started doing it with my own first book. I had an editor, I had a cover designer, but I did the interior and I did the setup and I learned all the things. And it just blossomed into this thing that tapped back into my college and high school days on newspaper and yearbook. I have an eye for design. And so I just fell back in love with it. And then people started asking for help. And that turned into this business. And so for more than a decade now, I've been doing it, hundreds of books, lots of people helped. And I'm just getting started. So it's a lot of fun finding people and working with people to develop. Maybe it's their keynote that they're turning into a book because they're a speaker. Maybe it's their memoir. Maybe they're a pastor and they want to write something because they're going to be going on a speaking tour, tent revivals or who knows what, right? So I work with a lot of people in a lot of places. It is so much fun to see because what you're going to do here in a second is open this package, right? And that's such a
I keep saying I am, but then I'm not, right? Like, that's the key is
but it's such a magical thing when an author opens that box or opens that package and sees their own book. I got to experience that with my first book, but to do it for dozens and maybe even hundreds of people now, it's really cool that I get to be a part of that.
So let's talk about my first book now. And I'm putting that in here. And this is the project manager, life as a project. And you wrote the forward for this because we are both project managers. And so I thought that was super cool. Let's talk about that book a minute.
Yeah, I mean, that was the first time we kind of connected. I think you were in Germany, or
I was
you were
in
somewhere in
Germany.
Europe at the time. Yeah. So it was like, okay, how are we going to communicate? And it all worked out fine because the internet, and we're both pros. So that was fine. But yeah, it was a fun project. And then to be able to be invited to, work with you and write the forward for it was just a lot of fun. I just remember it being a lot of fun. It was a long time ago now. It's like 7, 8 years. But yeah, it was just a great little book, a great story and concepts, and I was proud to be a part of it, both from a design and publishing perspective, but also to write the forward.
Yeah, and one of the things for that for people is a lot of what we've talked about today is you have to write and you have to know your audience and you have to have a thick skin. And there's people who literally like, life is not a project and this is a terrible concept. And I'm like, okay, you should not read this book. Like, okay, noted, right? And so I think it was awareness for me that some people aren't even gonna like the concept of your book and being very aware. I had no idea the concept was going to be that controversial to people. And then I wrote my next book, and we were very excited. And this book was called The Consummate Communicator. And you gave it a very similar look and feel to the first book, which I loved. And I wanted to do the Scrabble thing. So the first one was this kind of Gantt chart. The next one is the Scrabble piece for communication. And we've got the virtual leader books that are going to be coming up, and we got to come up with cool covers for those next spring. But this book, we had the big drawback that this book was coming out. We had it all planned, and it was going to be out, I think, in June. And I was going to go to a live event, and this was going to be in June of 2020. And then COVID happened. And then we said, oh, we're going to delay the launch until like August, but then that's fine because then COVID will be over. Which, yeah, welcome to that world. And so this is actually how 24 Authors in 12 Hours came about, was to really start promoting this virtual book festival kind of concept. Now that then led to some time where I was working on some other things. I had this the virtual leadership book based on my dissertation. Then that kind of became a trilogy because it was too much for one book. Lots of different things got derailed there. And then in the meantime, a lot happens in DC. I decide like I'm going to go ahead and move out here to Gary, Indiana, which is just so random, from Washington, DC area, from Arlington, Virginia. And I come up with this concept of a dystopian fiction. And what did I tell you I wanted on this cover?
We had a lot of conversations. I don't remember the first thing.
So, I'm like, I want maps and I want this. And, it's got to like represent all these things, right? And trying to take 100 items and put them into one book cover is like a lot. And I think that James did an excellent job when you look at the detail of the book cover. So we're going to pull this out. Like a 5-year-old. Okay, are we ready?
Let's do it.
Oh, and I opened it backwards. Of course, that's the way it's going to open, right? But let's take a look at this amazing book cover. And what you can really see about it is, first of all, I love just the fact that the letters are textured. It's got that kind of cool old like newspapery kind of feel to it. It's not just bam, bold letters, right? It has that kind of, this is war and this is history. And so that was all James. And then we had talked about like the circles, the maps, the decoding. There's a lot on here. I'm not going to tell people these colors if you don't know what they are, but they're going to be important to the series. And the fact that it pulls around to the back of the cover. Like one thing I think that you see a lot of times in self-published books is you have a beautiful front cover that somebody made for Kindle, and then you get to the back and it's just a plain sheet of nothingness. And so making sure that it pulls around, making sure that you have this lovely spine. And so we're going to redo the spine when we get the whole series out. But in the meantime, you have this. We'll do special editions. And making it really professional when it comes to the barcode labels, the QR codes, putting how much money your book is worth. A lot of times when you see self-published books, they don't have how much you're charging. And if you put these on a table somewhere, people might just think they're free books, right? You want to make sure that you're really getting to this level of detail. But now I want to open up the inside. Oh my gosh. I am so excited about this because it's beautiful. And when you read a beautiful book, I think it makes you want to keep reading. And so this is what James did. And James, do you want to talk about how you did the character sheets for every part?
Yeah, I mean, well, you had a bunch of different chapters, and this is a fiction, right? So it's a lot of text. And my philosophy on design is typically less is more, and the object of the design is to immerse the reader in the story. So if it's too flowery, if it's too much that's going on the page, that can be jarring and take the reader out of the experience. But with your transitions, whether that's a chapter transition or the sections that you had, you want to kind of really create something that takes the reader and pushes them through that doorway to the next room, to the next thing. And so they see that there's a clear break. And so with those, you gave me the kind of the core artwork and some ideas there. And then we had the text, the character sheets of who was going to be introduced in those sections. And then I just kind of designed around that. And I liked the opposite aspect of having a black page with white text. It creates a visual sometimes on the edge of the pages. And then there's so much, again, more layers to that imagery. It's probably, I can't even see it on the screen, but it's beautiful in person, I'm sure. And then the chapter pages as well. We came up with something there to kind of really solidify that you're moving from one chapter to the next. But yeah, the section pages turned out great, and yeah, it's really a lot of fun.
Yeah, and one of the things I really wanted was this vibe of history meets technology. So it's got this kind of matrix ones and zeros overlaid, this kind of like very historic like silhouette. And then one of the things we did, and we talked about this back and forth, and this is where having a partner to talk about can be super beneficial. And yeah, you could talk to your beta readers and people, but having a publisher who's published hundreds of books and who's seen what works and doesn't work is because there's distinct parts of this book. The question was, should we do the characters all up front, which is like a very traditional way of doing it? Or do we do it by section? And that way you're not having too many spoilers. And so that was a lot of the decision into dividing it up into sections.
Yeah, no, it was great. And I think I have to give you credit for most of that, because you were talking about it and we were debating, do we do it or not? And then you came up with the idea of, hey, let's do it by section, and that way there's not too much for the reader to digest, or too many spoilers that are going to come in, because there are things that change from section to section, and certainly from book to book as the series is going to go on. So yeah, it was a lot of fun just collaborating with you and getting to that place.
Yeah, and I don't know if you could see this, but just every chapter opens up with this beautiful kind of chapter opening. And so, if you're looking at self-publishing, or if you're looking for hybrid publishing, really thinking through how can you make this book beautiful? Because when you're at especially a physical book fair, which I have my next physical book fair on September 27th, I can't wait, is, people pick up a book, and I had a authors group the other day, we talked about it, is let's not lie. People do judge a book by its cover, and you want that cover that's going to represent you. James brought up, I initially kind of had the three main characters, but the problem is those are only the three main characters for the first part of the book. So if I had that on the book, then you're going to be like, okay, what about the three main characters? And two of the characters get carried through, but they're not necessarily that kind of front and center characters. And then the whole list of characters grows and grows and grows. You can't have them all on here. And so I think that this is really good, because as you go through a series, now we have something that we can build on for every single series instead of just locked into some characters. And if you lock it into the characters on your cover, and that's not where you want to go with your series, that could be a huge problem. And James, you've done books and series as well. Do you want to talk about how you've helped to design those?
Yeah, I mean, it's about, you have to think of the series almost like either a series of movies or a series of books, but you want a line of continuity through them. There can't be too jarring of a difference between them, because now it feels like, are they part of the same universe, part of the same thing? So beginning with the end in mind, right? Stephen Covey. Doesn't mean that we know everything. You haven't written all of the books yet. You have kind of an outline or a thought on where each book is going to go, but we knew that there would be that theme, and so we were just trying to capture in the cover, in the artwork, in the presentation of the whole, of, hey, this is going to be part of something bigger than just this one book. It's part of this overall thing, this universe that you've created. Hopefully, one that doesn't come true, but one that will be a lot of fun. It'd be a lot of fun to live in while you're reading the books and watching the movies later, whenever Amy gets the big movie deal from Hollywood. So
I mean, we can definitely hope so. And one of the things I really, really do love about this book and the look and feel of the book and everything is, I feel like this is the kind of book that you can put up on your shelves. I'm still waiting to get my first copy of the hardback, but one of the things I love is a book that you can pull off and be like, this is a book you want to share, that you want to give away, that you want to put your stamp in. Versus, I have a book that's going to be coming out and it is not going to be done by James. It's my first book not done by him. And I'll see this as more of a throwaway novel, if you will. It is called Midlife Tradwife Magic. And it is a book used to kind of take a break while I'm waiting for my readers to give the feedback on. I think this is kind of like a very serious book, versus the this is just a book with magic and unicorns to kind of take that break of the heaviness of writing. And James, you are also an author, and you also are doing a podcast on LinkedIn now. Do you want to talk about that at all, what you're doing?
yeah, I mean, I've written a couple of books. Really, I haven't written in forever, in like 10 years. I need to start writing again, because that's where I fell in love with this whole process. But life gets busy and business has been good. So not exactly a podcast on LinkedIn, but I've been working to grow my business, honestly, and just sharing my knowledge and information out there. I recorded a series of videos, doing some posts, 5 days a week, just kind of getting the word. And it's been amazing having these really cool conversations and connections with new people. So this is certainly an opportunity to promote Free Agent Press and try to grow the business. It's a small business. It's just trying to feed my family and take care of things, but it's so much fun. And so being
Is it
able
okay
to,
for me to share your LinkedIn for Free Agent
yeah,
Press?
yeah, absolutely.
Go ahead and look that up, and I'm going to share that out there as well, because I think that what you're doing, if you're an author and you're looking for some tips, I think this is a super, super useful site, because it's there's a lot of good information that you're putting out there every single week on this. Because
Thanks. I'm just trying to share my knowledge and help people, whether people work with me or not, work with Free Agent Press or not. I want to help people, and so I share whatever I can. I'm always willing to have a conversation. You can schedule a consultation with me. It's not a sales call. It is simply to help people. And whether you're starting your writing journey, or you finished the book and now you don't know what the next steps are, or maybe it's published and you're trying to figure out how to take the next steps beyond that, whether it's marketing and promotion, which is not my strong suit, but I could certainly have a conversation about it. Or what do I do with my next book, or how do I grow this into a business, or whatever it might be. I'm happy to have those conversations with anybody that wants to schedule something.
And I'll tell you, I just love talking to you, James. I cannot believe that this time went by so quickly. So I do want to just remind everybody, 24 authors in 12 hours is completely voluntary. We don't take any money for it. If you want to donate, we would love for you to donate to our cause so that we can continue bringing you great content. In addition, we also have merch now. Very, very excited. If you want to get a coffee mug or a water bottle with our 24 authors in 12 hours logo on it, please purchase those. They will support us and also support other authors, because I want to continue this to be a free platform. There are so many scammers out there harassing authors, and you've heard some of the other authors talk about what that's been like. And the other thing I'm going to say is, if you want to read James's book, it's The Author's Kryptonite, right? Is your first book?
Conquer the Entrepreneur's Kryptonite.
Conquer the Entrepreneur's Kryptonite. And the one thing all authors need is reviews. So please take the time to write those reviews on Amazon, on Goodreads. Thank you so much for your time, James. Any last words before we go ahead and introduce our next author?
Yeah, well, two things. One, thank you. I know this is a marathon type day for you, and you're nearing the end of it. So congrats. Your energy's still up and you're still making stuff happen. And yeah, just if somebody is out there and they've got an idea, and they're not sure, or they're hesitant on it, or they've written the book but it's still just sitting on their computer, I always say your book can't help anyone if you don't put it out there. That was what pushed me over the edge with my first book. Was I'd written for 2.5 years, and I just hadn't gotten it out there, and I realized I can't help people if it just stays in my head or stays in my computer. So that prompted me to finish it up, get the workbook out, and it did help people, and it launched this entire thing that I've been doing the last decade. So get your stuff out there. Don't be afraid. There are going to be critics. There's going to be 1-star reviews and all kinds of stupidity out there, but find your people, find your audience, and have fun with it, because it's so much worth it to do that versus to just sit in your house and be by yourself. Go out there, find your people. It's a lot of fun.
You bring up an excellent point too, is it's okay for not everybody to like your work. Get the 1-star reviews, because everybody is not meant to be your audience. I did just put a link to Conquer the Entrepreneur's Kryptonite into the chat. I want to thank you again so much, James, and we're going to switch to our next author in just a minute. Thank you, everyone who is sticking with us throughout the day. Have a terrific day.
Thanks.